Oh, I'm live. Hey, everybody, it's JJ. We just finished our self-image rising class, and now I'm getting ready to do the what we call the fireside chat. So many of you know that every first Thursday I answer money questions that were submitted to me, and when it coincides with a class, it's actually a blessing for those who dial in on the free conference call, because those folks who are listening by phone, they get a free class, right? But everybody else can dial in. And so we just finished the class for tonight. It was all about the super secret, you would not believe it unless I told you, or unless you've already come to this level of growth, way to increase your productivity and your creativity, right? How to find more options. It's a super secret, good stuff we'll talk about later. But we just finished that class. It was fantastic. And now I'm going to answer some money questions that were sent in. Interestingly, I don't have as many questions tonight as I normally do. Normally for Fireside Chat, I've got about 2 hours worth of questions, and I answer all those and then I turn them into the next month of podcasts. So if you've got money questions, guess what? Tonight is your night for me to answer them. You can either dial in live on the number down there at the bottom of the screen, or you can just drop them in the chat. Now, if you drop them in the chat comments, it may take me a little while to get to them, but go ahead and drop them in there anyway. All right. Now, for those of you who have my home email, please don't email me. I find that it's gotten so, there's 80,000 messages in there, y'all. So don't email me that for tonight, because I'm probably not gonna find it with all the messages I got just during the last class. So let's go ahead and take some of these questions today, okay? The first question I had come in, this is one of my favorite questions to answer. This is a business finance question. So you can ask a personal finance question, or you can ask a business finance question, okay? So this one's a business finance question. And the question is, what should I hire first as I'm expanding my business? And the reason I love this question is because nobody ever believes me. And I didn't believe my first mentor that told me this until I did it in my life. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you've got a business that you're building, you've got a side hustle that's growing into something more, right? Or you've got your sights set on it, or even in your career, like some careers, you're rising up in the ranks and you want to take on a personal assistant, or you maybe want to take on somebody for greater branding and visibility. I'm gonna suggest that you might consider the very first position that you might hire to be domestic help. And by domestic help, I mean somebody to take care of the cleaning, maybe somebody to take care of the meal planning and the cooking, and to free up your time at home to spend time with your family and time with yourself, so that you can be your most productive you when it comes to running your business. See, I had thought that, oh, I need to go out and get an assistant to do this and this, and I need to go hire these people to do this and hire these people to go do that. But really, you know what I needed as I first started growing my business? I needed breathing room. And I'll tell you what else I needed. I needed to not work a full-time day job being active duty in the military, and a full-time ministry and a full-time side hustle, and then spending time with my kids. And if my husband was in town, spending time with him. And then when I finally get a minute to myself, it's time to wash the dishes and clean the house. How many of you out there, you finally get an opportunity, especially moms, you finally get an opportunity for a couple hours alone, and you're choosing between clean or sleep? Okay. So as you're building your business, that's something you definitely want to look into. Okay. All right. Next question. Let's see what this next question is. We're struggling to put away $1,000 away in savings. Okay, so before I read the rest of this question, let me talk about what that's about today. Okay, so when somebody new comes to me, one of the recommendations that I make is, depending on their income, that they establish a savings account. So if you're very low income, I might recommend $500. I really like people to get at least $1,000, because $1,000 covers most of what can get wrong. But if you're at a higher level of income, or if you have like different real estate properties and things like that, and your business hasn't grown enough to be able to cover what happens with them, then I might recommend more. In fact, if you are somebody who invests in real estate and you don't have enough in your retained earnings in that account that you use for your business, I would recommend at least $6,000 or $7,000 in your emergency fund, your personal emergency fund, until you can save that same equivalent up in your business emergency fund. Because a water main bust and you got to repair it, and concrete and everything, that's $6,000 right there. A roof is what, 5,000-6,000, depending on who you get it from. Like my friends can get a roof fixed for $3,000 or $4,000, and then when it came time to get our roof repaired with the contractors and the insurance company, it was 18,000, and I'm like, all the investment work I've done, a roof is not that expensive. But I guess it is when you've got an insurance markup, right? But so you want to have money in the bank to cover the things that can go wrong, because far too many of us get our future plans derailed by a busted tire. Get our plans and everything derailed by having to go into the doctor. Or we don't go into the doctor because we don't have any money for it. Okay. And so these are the kinds of things. I mean, we need health insurance as well, but these are the kinds of things that we really want to do. So with this particular person, their recommendation, my recommendation for them is $1,000, and they're having trouble putting that away. And they're really having disagreements about how to raise the money fast. And so one wants to sell the other's car, and that one doesn't want to sell their car. And I'm kind of shortening the question a little bit because I don't want to give too many personal details, right? And then there's another part of this that's applicable to more people. So I'm actually going to answer that as a separate question. But when you can't, as a couple, when you can't figure out what to do, okay, then sometimes you can split the difference. We got, look at that, y'all. I quit working for the military, and apparently I now qualified for a stimulus check, right? And so we got a stimulus check, and me and my husband were like, well, what are we going to do with it? And he's like, well, I want to do this with it. And I was like, well, that's the whole thing. I want to do this with it. And so we just agreed to split it, right? And we split it, and we're doing what we're going to do with it. And I encourage you to be intentional about that. That's what we're going to talk about Saturday. Be intentional about what you do with that. Make sure it's going to define your future and help your future, right? But on a lot of things, when we're trying to get out of debt as a couple and we're trying to create new habits and new patterns, we can't just split it down the middle, because it's not just a split down the middle problem. It's not, I brought $30,000 of debt to this marriage and you brought $30,000 of debt to this marriage, and I worked 12 hours and you worked 12 hours and we split all the bills down the middle. We say things like that, but even when it's actually true, and I haven't yet had any clients where everything was really, truly equal in their marriage, we say that, but it doesn't end up that way. I mean, I'm not trying to be, I just lost all my Facebook folks. Somebody did not like where I was going with that one, man. That readership went, or that viewership went way down. But seriously though, it's very, very rare that you're actually going to have everything split down the middle. Okay. And so you can't make decisions by split down the middle, because what that really is that's avoidance. That's avoidance of the issue. Well, we're just going to split this down the middle. You take care of your half and I'm going to take care of my half, and you figure it out. Or, one spouse, and I was guilty of this. This is me. Okay. So this is how I wanted to solve our problem of me moving all my stuff into my husband's house. You get rid of all your stuff and we move all my stuff in. It doesn't work like that. And it's really easy for one spouse to see all the specks in the other spouse's eye, but not see the big old beam sticking out of their own eye. Okay. So we really have to come together. This is why I say money problems aren't always money problems. They're usually people problems. And so you guys are fighting over selling this car, but let's stop fighting over something and trying to prove who's going to be right. And let's start fighting for your future. See, when we're fighting each other, I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. And either way, somebody is going to be unhappy. So we stop fighting each other and we start fighting for our future. So when you start fighting for, now there's a common enemy. 10 years from now, we want to be financially free, don't we? That's right. So I'm fighting to get to that's right with the person that is supposed to be helping me build my future. Okay. So I hope you get what I'm saying here in the context of resolving your money issues in your relationships. Okay. I'm not fighting my spouse. I'm not fighting my spouse. I'm fighting for my future. And when I'm fighting for my future, if my spouse wants me to sell my car and I don't really want to sell my car because I think he should sell his truck, well then we have to discuss what is best for our future. Okay. So that's the shift that I would make in this particular situation. Okay. Now, a second part of this question, and this is one that I've got a couple questions on, and I love this question because I find that before I knew how to answer this for myself, it was a mystery to me and it was always haphazard. And so it's about how do you know where to put in new money into the budget when new money comes in? And the way they're making this sound is that they're doing kind of like I do. And I'll admit I'm bad for this, y'all. I'm bad for this. I will make the plan and make the budget, and then extra money comes in. Up, going shopping. I'm going to go shopping. Oh, I'm going to go do this. Oh, I'm going to go do that. Oh, let's go to a trip. Oh, let's go eat. And this is where the Lord had told me I had to stop being so hypocritical, because I could get real critical at the things that my husband might want to spend some money on. But the reality is we are two peas in a pod on that. When we like something or we want something and we have the money for it, we're going to go get it. Right. So I had to learn that just because the likes are different doesn't mean the pattern isn't different. All right. So you're mad about this, and you're mad about that, and you got this money, you got that money, and you're thinking it's different, but under the surface, it's the same behavior. You just got different likes. Okay. So when this extra money comes in, it's important to add it into the spend plan. Okay. Now there's two situations when we talk about extra money. Okay. One is you know the money's coming before it comes. We add that to our allocated spend plan. We add that into our plan for what we're going to do with this money before we get it. This is why I'm telling everybody, be intentional about your stimulus check. You may not know how much you're going to get. And I think you can sit down with somebody and find out how much you're going to get. I honestly didn't look into it because I didn't think it was really going to happen. Bad financial planner me. But you can plan out, okay, if I'm getting this much, here's what we're getting. If we get a little more, here's what we're getting. If we get a little more, here's what we're getting. And when you plan it like that, it's called an irregular spend plan. And all an irregular spend plan is, all an irregular, you can't see that. All an irregular spend plan is it's just a list of all the things you want to buy if you get the money to buy it. Okay. And so, we have our set budget, our set spend plan with the money we know is coming in. If we get more money and we know we're getting it before we get it, then we spend that money on paper first. But if somebody buys 3 classes tomorrow and I got an extra $10,000 in my account, well, I haven't planned for that. It showed up and I'm happy it showed up, right? I love it when it shows up. I love waking up to finding more money in my account, right? But I didn't plan for that. But I planned for that because I got me a list of all the things I want to implement in my business, or I've got a list of all the things I want to implement in my family or buy in my family, or the programs I want to sign my son up for. You create that list. And when the money comes in, both on the business side and the personal side, when the money comes in, you got a plan. And when you have a plan, what it does is it keeps you from throwing that money away unawares by going shopping or doing whatever, and you didn't even realize that you were doing it, and all of a sudden it's gone. Okay. And so I'm not saying don't go shopping with that money, but put it on your irregular spend plan. Hey, if I make an extra $200 this month, I'm going shopping. It's my birthday. I'm going shopping. I get an extra $500 this month. The first 200 going shopping. The next 300 buying my son whatever. Okay. So that's called an irregular spend plan. Very, very powerful technique. But if you know the money's coming in before you actually get it in your hands, then plan out what you're going to do with it. Just that act of being strategic, I'm telling you, it shifts the energy in your favor when it comes to money. One of the biggest differences between people who have money and people who don't have money is that people who have money and keep more of their money, they think strategically. They think long term. They think, how am I going to make this work for me? Where am I going in my life? Where do I want to be? And how can the resources I have available to me get me there? Okay. All right. Great question. Great question. All right. Let's see here. Oh, I like this one too. How to prioritize what debts to tackle first. Now, I'm going to qualify my answer with this one with, please understand that what I'm about to suggest is not mathematical. Okay. But the way I look at it, if any of us cared about math, we wouldn't have gotten in debt in the first place, because debt brings interest. Interest brings a penalty, the money that we didn't need to pay in the first place. It's like my example with the purse. You get your new Dooney, you put it on credit, you pay the minimum the minimum payment. Your $300 purse now turns into $1,000 purse. But if you'd have just waited a couple months and saved up the $300, now you're not paying the minimum payments. Okay. And so we know that intellectually, but we don't do that. So if we don't do that, that's why I'm saying we're going to suspend the need to be mathematically correct for a minute, and we're going to do something that gets our behavior going in the right direction. So if very simply, the way I recommend we prioritize debts, okay? The very first thing that I recommend we prioritize is actually not a debt. It's called the 4 walls, okay? We want to make sure we pay for our housing, which includes our utilities. Okay. I don't want you paying off credit cards and you don't have any lights on in the house, any heat during winter. All right. I want you to make sure you got a place to live. You've got water running. You've got electricity going. You've got transportation to get to work. You got something to eat. Now, I'm not talking about bison steaks every night, but I'm talking about good quality food that's going to help you stay healthy while you get through this rough patch, right? So there's the basics that we take care of, and then we worry about the debts, okay? So we take care of our 4 walls, and if we can afford to pay the minimums on our debts and our bills, we do that, okay? If we take care of our 4 walls, but we don't have enough money to prioritize on our debts, then in that case, I recommend we sit down. I recommend you sit down with me first of all, okay? But you can do your internet research. You don't really need to pay me for this. I know most of the people who come on Fireside Chat, they're struggling. They don't have money for a financial coach right now, although I think I'm worth it. I understand. I've been there. But you can Google this. It's called a pro rata letter, and you're going to figure out how much you have left over. So let's say I made $700 this month and my rent is $400. And I need about 100 to eat off of, okay? And I need about 20 for gas, because I'm not going anywhere extra. I don't have no money, right? So now I'm up to $520, and that leaves me, out of my 700 that I made, that leaves me 180 left to pay bills with, okay? And so if I owe, if my minimum for Best Buy this month is 100, and my minimum to Sears is 100, and my minimum, let's get somebody else, my minimum to JC Penney's is 300, I can't pay that. I only got 180 left. And see, I'm not going to pay Sears and JC Penney's and miss my mortgage, miss my rent and get evicted. All right. I'm not going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a letter to all my creditors, and I'm going to say, this is my bare bones basic budget. I only made $700 this month. This is how much my rent was. This is how my basic utilities. This is the small amount for food. Here's all I have left over. And here is your fair share. I know I owe you this. I'm going to pay you in full, but this is your fair share of what I have left over to pay bills with. And you're going to send that letter every month until you're able to start paying in full. And I'm going to tell you, after about month 3 or 4, people are going to they're going to start dropping fees, and they're going to start working with you and dropping balances and stuff, because they're going to see you're serious. See, I've only had one person who did this technique that did not escape being sued. He actually did get sued. And when I asked him, I said, well, we drafted this letter for you. And he said, well, I didn't put my budget in. And I said, but you got to put your budget in, because otherwise they think you're lying. Because guess what? Everybody's grandma goes into the hospital right before the big game. Everybody got a medical emergency right before Christmas. Everybody lost their job right before fill in the blank. And your creditors know that because they get thousands of letters and phone calls. Now, they don't get letters. They get phone calls from people that say, I can't pay my bill this month because fill in the blank calamity. But really, the reason they can't pay their bills because they wanted a big TV for the big game. They wanted a living room, dining room suite for Thanksgiving or for Christmas. Like, your creditors know this. So you got to come correct when you cannot afford to pay your bills. All right. So that's situation 2 there. Okay. So we're going through these situations and we're walking our way up. Okay. If you have enough money to cover your 4 walls and you have enough money to pay your minimum payments on all your bills, you pay your minimum payments on all your bills and you take everything that's left over after you got that savings account we talked about in the beginning, you take everything that's left over and you throw it at the smallest bill. I know it's not the most mathematically accurate way to do it sometimes. I get that. But there's something psychological about knocking out that smallest bill. Okay. And remember, if we cared about math, we wouldn't be in debt in the first place because all debt does is make the bankers rich and it keeps us poor. All right. So we, I know some of you can be like, "Oh, I could leverage debt." Okay, well, I got a lot of real estate investors who are hating life right now with COVID. So don't even talk to me about debt. I like to invest without debt. All right. So anyway, I'll get off that soapbox. But so you pay the minimums on everything, and the extra you have left over, you throw it all at the smallest one till you knock it out. And when you knock it out, you throw everything that you were paying on that smallest one towards the next smallest one till you knock it out. And you just keep doing that. You just keep doing that till you knock them all out, baby. And it works. It works. And you get that psychological boost and you start knocking off a bill over here, start knocking off a bill over there. And I mean, it begins to get real. You begin to see that you can do this and you begin to feel that freedom of breaking free of the bondage of owing somebody else and being afraid at any given moment that you're going to lose your job or something and not be able to pay them. All right. Or that your health is going to kick in. Oh, I have so many clients that have these come and go conditions. Some days you feel good and some days you don't feel good. And some days you can work and some days you can't work. And I help them develop businesses so that they can work within the confines of their medical conditions. And even as they're working to improve those conditions, right? So that if you don't have 3 or 4 or 5 years of good days in a row, that you set up a business and an income stream that allows you to work with what you got, right? But it's the more financially free you are, the easier it is to do that. Okay. You got all these bills. It's really hard for me to be able to help you craft something that's going to just be in line with your medical conditions and it's going to make your heart sing and you're just going to be overjoyed. I mean, sometimes when we're in a deep situation, we just got to put the metal to the pedal and do a pedal to the metal and get the job done. All right. So the more you're free of debt, the more options you have. Okay. So when it comes to prioritizing your debts, that's how I would prioritize them. Okay. I would make sure I cover my 4 walls if I can do that, but I can't pay my minimums. I would do a pro rata plan until I get to a point where I can at least pay something off. Right. If I can pay my minimums, I pay the minimums on everything except the smallest one and throw all my extra money at the smallest one till I knock it out and rinse and repeat. All right. Great question. Great question. I love this. Now, if you did not submit a question, you can go ahead and drop one in the comments and I'll do my best to answer it. Next question. How much should I set aside for savings? Oh, well, you know what? I did answer that, but we have new people on. So let me go ahead and cover that again. Okay, let me go ahead and cover that again. Just real quick. If you don't know how much you should have in savings, during COVID, I actually think we should save more. We don't know what's going to happen as the spring progresses, and we think things are going to get better, but we really don't know. I would seriously be socking away as much money as you could into your savings, unless you're financially free or financially independent. Okay. So what I mean by that is, let me speak in normal terms. You're either at a point where you control your income, meaning you don't have to work you can work where you can work and you can not work and still have what you need coming in, or you're at the point where you can not work and have what you want coming in. Okay. But if you're at the point where you're beholden to a job right now, I would still recommend saving as much as possible. And I didn't talk about this at the beginning, so I'm glad we're bringing this up now. I would still recommend that you save as much as possible because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if employers are going to start requiring you to have the vaccine before you can come to work. We don't know if everybody's going to want to get it. And I'm not passing any judgment on people who got it or don't want to get it. I'm just saying I see a lot of people on both sides. And I know a lot of people are going to have a difficult time making a decision if they're not in a position to leave their job because their job wants them to have the vaccine and they want to wait and let it get tested on a few more people first, right? And so there's all kinds of different mindsets out there, and I try to help people prepare. It's a personal choice. How not a personal choice. Well, it is a personal choice how much you save. What I mean is how much you save is dependent on your personal situation. Okay. So if your job might possibly go away in spring, or if your job might be at risk that you can't work there because you don't want to take a vaccine, or if your job might be at risk because the nature of the economy has been fundamentally changed forever, then you want to sock up more cash because you don't know what's coming down the pike. Okay. Now, basic recommendations is when you are steeped in debt. Okay. Basic recommendations when you're steeped in debt, you will save at least 500 to 1,000. In some high income areas, I recommend 2,000, just depending on your income levels. And then once you're completely out of debt, you've got the 3 to 6 month savings. I personally think everybody needs a 6-month savings, 6 months of expenses. What do you need to live on? Now, I say 6 months of expenses. There's a lot of things that don't need to be in that because, if I don't get any speaking gigs for 6 months, I don't need to buy another pair of lubes. Okay. I don't need another pair. That's a business expense. It's not a necessity. Okay. So, that's the kind of thing that we want to evaluate. I'd say at least 3 to 6 months. But again, with COVID, you know where you stand on things. You know how you want to live your life. If you are, as many people as I see on Facebook, still a little bit still a little untrusting of this vaccine, I would recommend you stockpile some cash because I think change is coming. People are projecting that change is coming, and I don't know for sure, but I just want you to be prepared. Okay. All right, let's take a question from the live audience today, and then we'll get back to the questions that have already been submitted. So this one here says, if you have a good business plan, are there loan companies that will offer you a loan even if you don't have an income right now? Okay, I am going to answer the question as stated, but before end around the question, I am going to say I am not a big fan of getting a business loan. And I know that flies in the face of so many people that you go get your business, you go get your D&B, you start establishing your credit, and then you take out lines of credit, and that's how you grow and expand your business. And there's a reason most small businesses fail within the first 5 years. And one of the biggest reasons is too much debt. Okay. So I'm going to answer the question. And the question is yes. If you have a solid business plan, there will be banks out there, companies out there, investors out there who will offer you a loan. But if you don't have any income, that may not be the route you want to take because you don't know what the market is going to bear and you don't know what's about to change over the next 6 months, 12 months. Okay. And so let me just expand on this point for a minute. Okay. So what do you need in a business plan? Okay. In a business plan, there's a couple different things that you put into a business plan. You're going to talk about your research. You're going to talk about your competition. Like people want to know that you've researched your competition. You know who you're up against, and you know your value proposition. Like people ask me, what makes you different from the other 8 million financial planners out there? Well, guess what this financial planner has done? I've gotten out of $800 something thousand of debt. Not too many people can say that. All right. I did all that while being a single mom, active duty in the military. Not many people can say that. I invest in real estate without going into more debt. Not many people can say that. Not many people want to hear that. So I don't have any visions of grandeur that I'm going to have a super huge following or anything, but I sleep well at night and I wasn't stressed at COVID because guess what? My people kept paying their rent. I took good care of them. They took good care of me and we all got things together. And even if, I think a business plan is where you explain your difference. It's where you explain how you're going to grab some of the highly competitive market that you're going to be in. And when I put my first business plan together, I had all kinds of good stuff in there. And I wasn't planning on getting a loan or anything, but you go to these networking things and you meet loan officers, and I wanted to know if I had a good business plan. So I would give my business plan out and they would review it. And time after time after time again, they would all focus in on how I was expecting to make money in the market. And in their opinion, each one of them, until I learned how to do this better, each one of them was like, your plan is not solid. You're very weak on how you actually expect to generate income. But I hadn't generated any income yet. I had been financial coaching for years, but it was always in a volunteer capacity. So I didn't know what I was doing to generate income. Okay. And so this is why it's essential that we really do our research. But if you have done your research, and you can put in your business plan that you have done your research, you'll find somebody to lend you some money. Okay, you will. You absolutely will, because people want to make money and they're going to lend you their money because you've shown them that you're going to bring it back as a return for them. I'm just not so sure that's really what you want to do. And we can talk about that offline, okay? Oh, I love this here. I love these comments. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I love hearing that I'm doing a good job, and I'm not too. I'm vain enough to like that, but I'm not vain enough to admit it. I'm humble enough to admit that I love that. All right. Let's go back to the questions that have been submitted beforehand. And these are great questions. Let me see what we've got here. What's next? Ooh, I love this. And my apologies for anybody listening on free conference call. I didn't think about it till I heard the clink of my cup. Here I am setting my metal cup down right next to your ears. This question is asking for some discussion on different plans. Okay. And so they're looking for information on savings and vehicles and investment vehicles such as a 457 plan, HSA, IRA, all those kinds of things. Okay. And so let me just talk about what some of these different things are. Okay. An IRA is an individual retirement arrangement, and it can be a variety of different accounts. And we've heard of the traditional IRA, the Roth IRA, like there's different types of IRAs. I'm a big fan of the self-directed IRA, especially if you're going to invest in real estate. Excuse me. If you're going to invest in real estate. And so each of these IRAs has their different bennies and their different issues. Okay. So a traditional IRA is the kind where the government, depending on your income level, the government gives you a tax break for putting money into it. And then they tax your earnings later on. They tax your earnings and they tax the amount that you put in. Okay. Because they didn't tax you in the beginning, they tax you in the end. Now, when these were originally set up, the whole premise of this was, well, when we work hard for a company for 40 years, then we retire. Now our income drops. And so since our income has dropped, we can afford to take money out of the IRA and it won't be such a big tax hit. Our income will have dropped. We'll have paid off our house. So we won't have so many expenses. So we won't, we'll be on our fixed income and it'll all be good. Okay, so here's an interesting story. Let me tell you how the Roth came about. Okay, so this came about right as I was, I think I was in college when the Roth came out. I was either in college or in grad school when the Roth came out. And I remember Larry Burkett, who was the man who got me out of debt the first time. Okay, Larry Burkett was vehemently against the Roth. He was like, you don't know what the government's going to do 50 years from now. And just because they're giving you a break now doesn't mean that they're actually going to hold their promise that they're saying. And so what the premise of the Roth is, and I understand where he's coming from, because what was happening with the Roth, okay, the government needed money. The government needed money. And so what they decided was, hey, here's a great way to get an influx of cash into the federal treasury. Let's tell everybody, if you pay taxes on your retirement account money now, we won't pull taxes on it later. Okay? So get this down. The government needs money. They don't want to raise your taxes. So they just find a way to incentivize you to go ahead and pay more taxes than you've been paying, because now you can pay tax on the money invested in this individual retirement arrangement, the IRA. And they call this, the name of the senator who proposed it, Roth. They call it the Roth IRA. You put your money in, you already paid tax on that money. You don't have to pay tax on the earnings. So if you do the traditional thing that I tell folks in their 20s, right? Invest in your retirement, $100, $200 a month, you'll retire a multimillionaire. Easy peasy, right? Most of us didn't listen to that. So that's why we have to work so hard at our older age, right? but if you do that starting in 20, you may have put into the market, I don't know, let's think about that. Let's say $200 a month. 2,400. Let's just round that up to 2,500. So every 4 years is about 10,000 or so, right? I mean, for over 40 years, you've put in $100,000. Okay, this is math in public, and I'm making the numbers big and round. Okay, you've put in about $100,000 over your working lifetime, but you come out of it with multiple millions. It's like 9 million or something like that. Okay, nice win, right? And you don't have to pay tax on it. I like not paying tax on it, right? Okay, so what happened is all these people said, oh, I like the idea of not paying tax later. Instead of investing in my traditional IRA where I get a tax break today, I'm going to make it so I don't have to pay taxes later. And the government got their money and people got their new IRA method. Okay, and so win-win for everybody, as long as the government holds their process. But I remember Mr. Burkett, man, he would get on that radio and he was like, don't trust the government. Take what you can get now, because you don't know what the government's going to do later. Well, I hope he was wrong about that, because I love that. Okay. And my self-directed IRA and all my stuff is well, no, they're not all Roth. I think my TSP has some traditional. I think it's half traditional and half Roth. Okay. So that's the IRA. There's two different kinds of, well, there's actually, a couple different things you can do, but those are the two main structures that we have. And then I talk a lot about self-directed IRA. What a self-directed IRA is it's going to be one of those structures, but it's an account arrangement kind of thing where you choose what you invest in. So I could go to Vanguard or Fidelity or, any of those big investment houses, and I can go online and I can quickly open up an account that will allow me to do an IRA, and I put my money in it. They take my money and they invest it how they want to. Okay. That's how a traditional IRA works. And they'll invest it according to a little bit of your guidance. Like you can specify if you want to be aggressive, or if you want to be more safe, or if you want to do a life cycle fund. People seem to like those. I'm not a big fan of them, but people seem to like them, right? But then what you have is the self-directed, where nobody's investing anything on your behalf. You are doing the investing. So if you're going to invest in cryptocurrency, if you're going to invest in, I don't know, stamps. There's a lot of things I don't know if you can do stamps, actually. There's a lot of things that you can invest in. There's a handful of things the IRS says you cannot, but real estate, cryptocurrency, your own kind of stocks and things like that, all of those things are options in a self-directed IRA. Here's the problem with the self-directed IRA. I love them, but here's the problem. If you're not making money with your money, ain't nobody making money with your money. At least if you set it and forget it with a monthly contribution to Vanguard or Fidelity or any of them, at least every month they're taking your money and they're doing something with it. You have a self-directed IRA for real estate or for whatever else you want to invest in, and you sit on it for a year. Guess what you didn't do this year? You didn't earn any money. Okay. But if you know you want to invest in real estate or something where you've got big dollar opportunities, a Roth self-directed IRA right now, that's the best vehicle going. All right. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about that. Now, another one that you mentioned was the HSA, and that is a health savings account. Okay. And depending on the health care that your employer offers, the HSA is tied to what they call a high deductible plan. So what this is for people who are either super, super sick or people who are super, super healthy. All right. Because it's like $3,000 or $5,000 depending on your policy. So if I have to go to the doctor and it's $500 to go to the doctor, then I'm paying that $500 out of my pocket. Right. And so that's kind of a lot, right? So they have a vehicle where you can put money into the HSA. It's a special account that you get to have tax wise because you have a high deductible plan. The government made this structure. And so you can put money into that HSA. It can grow tax free and you can use that to meet the demands of the high deductible plan. So I can put money in there while I'm healthy. That money is investing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And then later on in life, when I possibly could have more health issues, I'm hoping I won't, but later on in life, when I could possibly have more health issues, that account has grown to cover the deductible. And once the deductible is met, all my health care is covered. See how this works? You could very quickly self-insure this way and not self-insure, but you could very quickly make sure that all of your healthcare needs are covered in this way as long as you have these kinds of policies. So now let me tell you what an HSA isn't, okay? And what an HSA is not is a flexible spending account, okay? An FSA. All right. So some people have those at their jobs where you can put the money in and you get tax breaks or you get other breaks or you get other matches or things like whatever the bennies are. And you can pull that out and use it to buy your glasses or your whatever else you have. But at the end of the year, if you don't save that money, you don't use that money, you don't spend that money, you lose out. Okay. So whether you put the money in or your health or your employer's putting the money in, there's different things you have to watch out for with the FSA. The HSA, that is tied to one of these high deductibles. So, you're not paying a $30 copay. You paying the whole bill up to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Okay. So that's an excellent vehicle, especially if you are in good enough health now that you can really build that account up so that when you really need it, it's growing. You've got that time value of money going for you. And it's just like a perpetual growth that keeps spitting off the money you need. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. Let's see what else they asked about here. Okay, they asked about a 457 plan. So this makes me wonder. If there may be government. This is like a state government, maybe. This is a type of retirement plan. Okay, it's let's see. You can put up to 100%, I think, of your salary in there. But the thing is, you don't get. Hold on, y'all. I forgot to plug my computer in. Hold on. Gotta reach it. Can I reach it? Okay. Okay. Woo! that was about to go bad real quick because my computer only gives you so much warning. That screen darkens and you got about 2 minutes before it says, hey, you better save your stuff. And then 2 more minutes, it's done. Okay. Thank you for being patient with me there. Okay. So, the 457 plan, that's like a government or a state government or a nonprofit. It's not usually a corporate plan like your 401ks, which you're going to find more in a corporate. You might have trying to think. I could have sworn you could have done 100% of your income, but I think there's still rules on that. Okay, so never mind. Let me just take that back. Let me take that back. I should have looked this up before we talked. Okay, but it's the difference is who can put into it. Okay, and so it's not. What do I want to say? It's if you have availability to one and that's all you have availability to, then go ahead and take advantage of it. Okay, personally, I think you might have some greater flexibility by using an IRA, but it's also going to depend on what your options are, okay? Because this isn't money that is going to give you all kinds of like I mean it's tax advantage, but it's not qualified. So it's going to give you some benefits. You know, it really you probably just need to sit down with a CPA, which I am not. I am a financial planner, but taxes make my head hurt. But you can, if I recall correctly, you can invest in a 457 and in a 401k if you have the kind of employment that allows you, you know, you're getting one here and you're getting one there. Okay. You get more of a, I know you can put more in. Maybe it's more of a catch up. Maybe that's what it is. You can get more into it. If you're older, you can get more into it than you could a 401k. I could have sworn, hold on, I'm going to look it up. No, I'm not. I don't have time to look it up. Okay, but in any event, a 457 is a retirement plan, okay? It's usually offered by state, local government, some nonprofits, although some will do like a 403b. And the thing is, it's governed by different rules with different protections. So in my humble non-CPA opinion, if you were going to set up a retirement account, unless the 457 plan unless the 457 plan offered through your employer had some serious benefits to it, or unless you were old enough that being able to put more into it in a tax advantage ability, and again, you want to sit down with a CPA to find out about that, makes a difference for you. It's probably, for 9 out of 10 of my clients, is probably better to go with the self-directed IRA or with any kind of Roth IRA. I didn't mean to say self-directed. I actually meant to say Roth, but it's actually probably a better idea. Okay. And so, you know, normally I get these questions and I'm like, yeah, I got it. That's one I wish I would have taken the time to review beforehand so I could have like looked that up for you. But yeah, it's another form of account. And I remember when we covered all those accounts in school, when we would cover retirements, oh my goodness, that was like 2 months of ridiculousness. The only thing that was worse for me than retirement plans was taxes. Like the actual, no kidding, taxes, like what you could deduct and what you can't deduct. And, you know, if you're blind and if you're this, and I was just like, I can't. This is why I pay a Barry. I don't know how she does this. I can't. Okay, here's a great question. If you leave the company, can you still use the HSA? Ooh, now that is a good question. I think you can, but I am not going to answer that definitively because I think it's going to depend on what I I think you can use it. I don't know if you can continue adding to it. So I will have to get back to you on that. And unfortunately, with the way that this StreamYard is set up, um, it's showing me your name, but I am not seeing your picture. So do me a favor and send me a Facebook message so that I will not forget to go look that up for you. Okay. Cause that's a really good question. I'm pretty sure you retain your assets, but I don't know that you can keep contributing to them. Like I think in order for you to contribute to them, you actually have to be tied to a high deductible plan. So if you move jobs, I think you still retain the account. Like you wouldn't want to pull the money and put it in your pocket. No, you don't want to do that. But I think you can still retain the account and you can roll it over. But I don't know that you can continue adding to it if your new employer doesn't have that. Okay. And I also don't know what the restrictions are for how you would use that once you left. Like an IRA. So let me answer a question I can answer. Okay. Like that one I'm going to have to research. So shoot me a Facebook message, or you can send me something through the website, or you can shoot me a text, y'all. My text number. Can you guys see that up there? Hold on. Y'all can shoot me a text. Now you have to register because it's a public text number. So, I'm going to make sure that people register so I'm not getting all kinds of spam. I give my number out, boy, I thought I had it on here. Okay. Anyway, I won't worry about it right now, but, shoot me a message so I don't forget. But one question I can't answer is with an IRA. Okay. So when you leave one job, you've got a 401k or an IRA. All right. Yes, you can take that with you and you can park it in your own IRA or other vehicle. Okay. But you can't take that money and put it in your pocket unless you are ready to pay some taxes and penalties, or if you're old enough that you don't have to pay some penalties, that you can, if you, if you're old enough that you don't have to pay any penalties, you may still have to pay taxes if it's traditional. So you don't ever want to take that money and put it in your pocket and think, oh, well, I'll invest it later. No. You want that to go company to company. You find you a new company, you send the form to the old company. It says, hey, y'all, give my money to this company, and they do the swap, and you are hands out of that, because otherwise they will withhold some of that money for taxes, and they will let the IRS know, and they will do all kinds of shenanigans. And at the end of the day, you're going to be left holding the bag. Actually, you're not going to be holding the bag because your money seems to evaporate. It'll take forever to get it back. You don't want to deal with all that. All right. Great question though. Yeah. Now I get to learn something. See, that's why I love to do this, because I always learn something. Okay. I'm going to look that up with the HSA. I've never had anybody ask that before. All righty. Ooh, this is a good question. This is an interesting question. I'm really proud of whoever this is. They have their $1,000 emergency fund. Go you. All right. They're on Medicaid, and they want to go into private insurance. And they want to get married. They're both over 60. So we'll just say that. We're both over 60, but they're not working, and they don't have any retirement due to disabilities. And so I think the concern from them is if they get married, they might lose their Medicaid. Medicaid is real finicky about how much you can have and under what conditions you'll still get it. And I actually know people that literally did not marry ever because they did not remarry because they didn't want to lose alimony or they didn't want to lose Medicaid. Okay. And so when I look at this situation, I got no retirement due to disabilities. We need to kind of get at what's going on here. Okay. Exceeding government resources limit is a problem as far as savings go. Okay. So you don't want to have too much because you're going to lose this benefit, but you don't really have enough to live on. You've got no income, and I'm sure you've got certain levels of assistance that might help out. But my concern is if the disabilities are so bad that you weren't able to retire and you're not able to work, then why are we not pursuing some income to support that? And that's an individual thing that I can't just answer from an Excel spreadsheet here. Okay. So if I'm working with this person, there's a couple of different things that I really need to know, because sometimes you can get other options, but you have to be willing to fight through the bathtub. Okay. And I'm going to draw this out for you guys. I'm going to draw out this bathtub for you. All right. Let's see if I can find a smaller Sharpie here. All I seem to find are the big fat one. Well, I guess it's the big fat one today. I hope you guys can still hear me if I move this. Okay. When when we start off trying to get out of debt or build wealth, and it doesn't matter what age we're at. I mean, it does matter, what age you're at, because at certain ages you're qualified for this. But I mean, you qualify for this, you qualify for that. But whatever it is, you start off with zero. Okay. You start off with zero. And as you do better for yourself, and you do better for yourself, you do better for yourself, and you've got whatever's helping you do better. Okay. So this represents your income. It could also represent your benefits, the totality of whatever you got going well. This is applicable to more than just finances. Okay. But for today, we're talking about finances. At some point, you hit the first bathtub, and the first bathtub is, oh, you make too much. You don't need our help anymore. And boom, you fall back down. And by time you pay for all the stuff somebody else was helping with, you're back here again, and you're having to climb. And you know what a lot of us do is we look at that and we say, you know what? I was doing much better back here. I'm just going to stay here for the rest of my life. I'm just going to stay there because I was doing all right. Okay. So we're going to put this, I'm going to make this dotted line. I'm going to call this all right. Not great, not amazing, but all right. I could live, I could eat, I could still have fun in life. I mean, not as much fun, but it's all right. It's not the end of the world. It's not the worst. I don't have to work so hard. Okay. And this graph is definitely not to scale. I should have made this a lot bigger because it takes a while. It takes a while. It takes a lot of hard work to overcome this. Okay. But eventually you overcome it and you climb. And then you hit another bathtub. Okay. And depending on where you're starting, there's a couple of bathtubs before you get to the one that I'm drawing here. But I'm going to draw the one that's about 150,000 adjusted gross income. Okay. That's where you make so much that the IRS says, ooh, we got some extra bennies for you, or we're going to get some extra bennies out of you, right? And you hit another bathtub. And so you hit another bathtub and you go get you a good CPA, and they show you how to take all the kind of deductions to keep you under that line. And it works for a while. But if you want to press forward to wealth, you got to press past that bathtub, And so no matter what we're doing in life, we've got to understand that in some cases there is more life past the bathtubs. And I don't know where this particular individual sits, okay? But because I don't know what kind of disabilities they're fighting. I don't know if I was to help them do a side business, what the impact would be. It would probably, if they brought in more, it's probably going to reduce their Medicaid. I mean, they're so finicky, especially this person, I think, was from Louisiana, So we've got to make sure that we understand the totality of the situation. But I don't want you to be afraid and play small. Now, some of y'all heard on a couple months ago, we were talking about somebody that I know who has a brilliant business mind, but they will never make more than $50,000 a year, because if they make more than $50,000 a year, then they were going to have to pay back their student loans. And I'm like, this person has a business that's at 7 figures. It could be 7 figures. Pay off the loans and get it out of your life and go on and be who God called you to be, right? And so we have to look at those things. And so when I read this, I kind of wonder what's going on, and it would be an individual thing, but I want to encourage you today. You really don't need as much money as you think you need to live a happy life. Now healthcare is no joke. And the older I get, the more important it gets to me. I start looking at all these things and I'm like, whoa, I thought this was supposed to be free. And I thought that was supposed to be free. And I thought this, and I was like, ooh, getting old. My mom says getting old ain't for wimps, and she is right. I tell you what. Okay. And so in order to transition from being on Medicaid to being into private insurance without a job, that's going to be a lot more difficult. And there are some options that I know about, but they're so individualistic that it's really hard for me to give broad advice on a general podcast. But I hope I've given everybody else something to think about here. You know, you can have, I had one client that had a very fulfilling life, making only $400 a month. And I have several clients that have a very fulfilling life just off of their SSI. And you say, well, how can anybody live off of that little? There's a way to do what you want to do. Okay. And so there's a way to be happy wherever you're at. And there's a way to live an abundant life at no matter what level you're at. And I personally think once you get yourself in a place where you are satisfied with where you are and you are a wise steward of what you have been given, then you begin to walk in even more and more abundance. All right. Oh, ho, 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 ho. This person is about to be at the end of their lease on a vehicle. And y'all know I do not like leases. Okay. You know, I had somebody come up to me and say, oh, my friend got me this lease. And I thought to myself, friends do not let friends get leases. That was not a friend. That was not a friendship. That was a usership. All right. So they have a lease. They're almost up. They're over in mileage. They're thinking about buying the car and taking a loan to buy the car. They're an older single female who doesn't have anybody to assist with transportation or even advice on car issues, doesn't have available cash to purchase a vehicle. Well, I'm looking at the vehicle you're talking about here, and I'm looking at the loan terms, and you've got to have something in order for them to be giving you these terms. Either that or they're lying to you and telling you what you want to hear, because somebody with no ability to save in a couple months and save up to buy a decent car wouldn't be able to get these loan terms. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So especially as we get now, let me qualify what I'm about to say, because I get it. I've had the car that's broken down, and I was a single mom, and I had the car that the electric was, my car was going so bad, the electric went and it locked my son in the car, and I didn't have money to get the car fixed. I didn't have money to get the electric fixed. And then the cops came and the fire came, and everybody's like, oh, you went to the store with your kid in the car. I'm like, no, I didn't go inside. I buckled him in. I walked around the car locked on me, you know? And I've been the mom with the kid in the back, and the car cuts off in the middle of the freeway, and you're like, oh my goodness, am I going to get out of this alive? And me and my son going to get hit? Where are we going to pull over? And I remember driving and being so thankful that we were on a downslope, so I was able to take an exit and get into a parking lot and be safe, right? And so I get it. We want to be safe with our vehicles. All right. The thing is, especially as we're getting older, taking on loans can really hamstring our ability to move in time and space. And it can also hinder our ability to do what we need to do. And so it doesn't say here how many months you have until you are up on that lease. I'm really kind of torn on I'm not torn. I don't think you're going to listen to me. And the reason I don't think you're going to listen to me, because you wrote me this much. Okay. And so you've got a lot of emotional investing into the story that goes behind why you got to have a car that's newer. And as a woman who has been single and has had a broken down car all the time, I get it. Okay. And so I do get it. At the same time, though, you've got to look at your long-term future. And if you could save this amount that you would pay towards a new car, if you could save that for about 10 months, 12 months, and I don't know how long your lease is, but if you could save that, maybe you would be able to buy something that's going to be reliable enough. And I also know what it's like to be like, I don't know anybody who can help me with the car. Because the first time I had a car that was breaking down all the time, I did have people that could help me with the car, and they were amazing. My friend's husband and his friend, oh my goodness, they took such good care of me, right? Well, the second time I had a car that was falling apart, I was remarried and my husband was in another state. So, when you are a married woman by yourself, it's a lot harder to get guys to do stuff for you than when you are a single woman by yourself, right? So when I was now my friend's husband and her friend, they weren't trying to mac on me or anything, right? They were just being good guys. But what I'm saying is my pool of available guys to help me do stuff was much greater when I was younger and single, when I was newly divorced, than it was after I was remarried and older. and so I understand that, but I also know that there are ways to build some relationships, and there's some ways to do things where you don't necessarily have to spend 20, 30, $40,000 on a reliable car that's going to get you to point A to point B. And if you're really concerned, like maybe you're driving a lot because of your work or something like that, we can sit down and brainstorm ways to help you generate some more cash so that you don't have to go into debt. Because when I look at this, and when I look at these payments, what I see focusing on is how low the payment is. But in order to make the numbers work from what I'm seeing, this means they're going to have you paying for the next 5 to 7 to 8 to 9 years. They have 7 and 9 year car loans now. You don't want to be 75 paying for a car that's no good now because you've been paying on it for 9 years. A better plan is to get something that will work now, something cheaper that will work now, and kind of work your way back up to upgrading where you're staying in a cash flow basis. Okay. And so the reason I said I don't think you're going to listen to me on this is because you seem very, very convinced that you're going to have to take on a payment. Okay. And if you're going to take on a payment, well, I don't know about this brand of car that you're in. I actually had a friend who had a very reliable car that she was up for her lease on, and I recommended that she just go ahead and buy the car. I knew she would be taking on a payment, but I also knew she was going to go get a payment if she didn't take on this payment, and that car was a reliable car, and it had done well for her, and she knew, it was a company that was going to last a long time, and that car, it lasted. She had no payment for several years, and then she went and bought something else. But I mean, I already knew she was going to do that when I recommended she, go ahead and get the car. So if the car has been very reliable for you and you project it being reliable for the next 5 years, then it's probably better to keep something and love and works for you than to go get a loan on something that's already, it's going to have somebody else's issues. Okay. Either way though, I'd really like you to consider, let's figure out how to bump up your pay, bump up your savings so that you can actually get a vehicle in cash that even if you have to pay, you owe in mileage, you're going to have to pay. Let's save up for that. Let's save up for buying something else. I'm going to tell you something. Here's something that I've seen it happen over and over, and people don't ever believe me till it happens to them. Okay. So I hope this will be of encouragement to you, but there are people out there who literally give away their cars. There are people out there who have extra vehicles they don't need. I have found that when people make a commitment to living a debt-free lifestyle or getting into a debt-free lifestyle, and I mean make a commitment, doors like that start to open. I can't even tell you how many of my clients have gotten cars given to them, or somebody said, well, you can use this car for a couple years, until you can get on your own 2 feet. These kinds of things happen when we make a commitment to ourselves and to our future. All right. Okay. Well, I've got another question here. We did kind of we already covered that. So I think we're going to wrap up. If there's anybody else, well, I'll refresh it just to be real quick. But if anybody else has a question live, go ahead and ask it. I'm going to look on free conference call and see if anybody's got their hand raised. Otherwise, I think we're about done for the night. Okay. This last question is, where do I start paying off my debt? And so I'm going to give the short version of the answer that I gave earlier with the last question that was very similar. And that answer is, when we have a lot of debt, we first make sure we protect our four walls. So our housing, which includes our utilities, our basic transportation. I mean, I'm not doing the subscription plan to Porsche here, right? If I can't pay my bills. And I have a lot of debt, but just the basic transportation, our basic clothing, basic food. We're going to make sure those basic necessities are covered for us and for our family. Okay. Cheerleading is not a necessity. Football is not a necessity. I know it feels like it. I live in Texas. I get it. But I'm going to make sure my four walls are covered. And then I'm going to pay the minimum on all my debts except for the smallest one. And I'm going to throw all my extra money at the smallest one until it gets knocked out. So every month, minimums on everything, all the extra money towards the smallest one. Once that gets knocked out, all that money goes to the next smallest one, and it continues and continues and continues. Okay. If I can't pay all my bills and I've got a lot of debt, then what I do is I cover my four walls, and then I will do a pro rata amount with a pro rata letter accompanying to each of those creditors, explaining why I can't pay the full amount, promising that I will pay them in full, including a broad level look at my budget so they can see that I'm telling the truth, and a promise that I will pay them in full and with whatever I can, even if it's $5, $10, $2. Giving them something with a pro rata letter every month lets them know that you are serious and that they don't need to sue you. You are eventually going to pay. The only reason a creditor is going to sue you is because, they need the money real bad, which most corporate creditors, they factor people having hard times into their equations. Or they think you're not going to pay, which is like most people who give the sob story about my dog, my cat, my mom, my grandma. Okay. It's usually a sob story. And then that person went to Best Buy and bought the big TV. Okay. So we just want to be aware of those things. So that's where I would start. Okay. Thank you all for being on the line today. I have thoroughly enjoyed answering your questions. I've got some research to do on the HSA question, which is a little bit embarrassing for me. It's a reminder that I should prep first and actually look at the questions before we do this. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed the discussion and some of the things that we can take care of. And again, if you're in a situation where you're worried about losing your benefits or losing your income due to loss of tangential benefits as you progress, let's sit down one-on-one and let's figure out a plan that's going to work for you. I'm confident we can find something. All right, y'all. I'm JJ Conway. Thanks for watching. Or if you're listening on free conference call or on the podcast later when I extract these questions and listen to them on the podcast, I want to appreciate you all for being here. Again, I'm JJ Conway. Y'all take care and be blessed.